I did mean it.
I mean it. Look on your face.
You don't know what that means. I was trying to kiss you during the intro.
Did you brush your teeth? No.
I did. I did. I just brushed. I just spoke to brushed, and I just got pushed away. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Rejection.
I was trying.
You're just messing with me.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
Oh gosh, welcome back everybody to the Couples Code. You've seen us before. We're back after the holiday season. Hi y'all. How you doing?
Oh, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Always Christmas and the Novotny house. It was your first Christmas in your new place.
It was.
Was it magical and memorable?
Yes. It was very wonderful. It was just like we had a nice relaxed Christmas morning, and it's just nice to be here in our place, in our own place. How about you guys?
It was good.
It was fast and furious. The whole month of December, cookies and gatherings and
It's a lot.
Rounds and rounds of holiday stuff.
A lot of people through our house at various times with our kids and groups and all kinds of parties.
Yeah.
So it was good. Christmas Eve, I had service, quite a few of them, a lot of people. So I was a little peopled out by the end, but
so our Christmas tradition for our family, since we're always at church Christmas Eve, is we'll do Christmas Eve fondue as a family, and we'll just
I like that
fondue at home with this awesome fondue pot I found at a yard sale from the 70s. It's the best fondue pot ever, though, and I can't let it go. So it gets a lot of mileage, especially around the holidays.
That's so fun.
Yeah, we're trying to come up with a New Year's tradition. Like I was gonna, for just Deb and I, like do sushi like on my body, where you can like eat that. But
no,
okay.
That was not anything we were discussing.
I thought we were discussing. Maybe that
as long as you have a side of ketchup. You have a side of ketchup.
Sorry, maybe I dreamed that. Anyway, that's our tradition, I guess.
So I saw that you have a mug, Jared. What's on your mug?
Yeah, what's on your mug?
Oh, that's where we went for New Year's.
But wait.
Yeah.
It said that.
Every time I go to Disney, I always write coffee mugs are my thing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he collects.
Only thing. So my kids try to find like the coolest mug. Now I gotta be honest though. There are some mugs at Disney. They're pretty. They can be pretty extravagant. Some of them are kind of goofy. Well, no pun on words, but some of them are bizarre. So I try to find like a normal mug. So I've got a couple Disney mugs. So. How about you guys? You guys New Year's for Christmas?
Yeah,
we were. New Year's Eve, Epcot.
Oh, is that the place to go for Christmas?
It is.
Now, why is Epcot the park for you guys on New Year's Eve?
You want to say it?
Well, it's the most adult vibe, I guess, because it's a lot of it's very crowded. You're not going to get a whole lot of rides in, but there's a lot of activities going on, a lot of shows, dance parties, all that kind of stuff.
Dance parties,
normally
DJs.
Don't see during the regular Epcot hours. It's a
you guys made it to midnight?
Oh yeah,
we made it to. We actually rode 2 rides after midnight. So we rode Soarin' and Living with the Land. So yes.
Is that the first thing you did in 2024?
It was.
Yeah, it actually was.
It was.
You want to tell them what we did the first thing? No, I'm just kidding.
Our daughter had friends over.
Yeah, we didn't really.
We went to bed.
That's
we had a New Year's kiss. That was it.
We were tired.
That's pretty exciting, honestly.
Well, I'm glad you guys had a good New Year's. Glad we got through the holidays, and now we're kind of back into the swing of things.
Yeah, right. Like New Year, time to like make your resolutions, or decide. This is a time of year, right? Like everybody wants to make their New Year's resolution and decide, where they're going for the New Year. So,
do you guys have New Year's resolutions?
I mean, like I have New Year's goals, I guess, like for various things, but in terms of, like work out more consistently.
Okay. My New Year's resolution is 25 times a week. That's my New Year's resolution.
Oh my gosh.
So,
so you bring up a good point here, because there was a question that we have to answer. That
we have our first question.
Yeah, we did. So someone had emailed in or texted in or something like that, and wanted me to go through, because on our last podcast we talked about what's the frequency you should do per week. And let me adjust my camera here. So
just move to the opposite side. Yeah.
So someone asked that question.
Yes.
They wanted clarification.
Wanted for clarification for age range. So, I think we kind of hit on it in the podcast, but it all depends on the couple. I wish there was a solid, like, if you're in your 50s, you need to do it 1.5 times a week or something like that. But that's not really I mean, it doesn't really work like that. Life is not like that. So it's nice if you can, the more frequently you can, that for some might be once a month, but it might be twice a month. It could be, it's just, as long as you're continually connecting without too much interruption. You don't want to go 6 months without anything. So remember the old commercial, body in motion stays in motion. Same thing with the sex life. Sex life in motion stays in motion. So there's no real set magical number, but I guess if you guys are feeling it that week, 2 or 3 times is great.
I'm gonna put that slogan up in our bathroom.
Oh, good.
A body in motion. We should both put it up. Just as a reminder, a daily reminder.
I should do that. I should do that.
Deb, is that your New Year's resolution?
Yes. It's my yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. It's my resolution. It's my New Year's resolution. So,
you're gonna exercise more?
We've kind of broken.
Well,
I said I would. Okay,
You're
look.
a keeper.
I said that you can get a pair of shoes if you got your New Year's resolution.
True.
But then I felt kind of weird because now it's like, I'm kind of buying.
I can be bought with shoes.
Yeah, but she's fine.
I mean, that's fair.
As long as we communicate about it and agree.
That's
on
right.
it, fine.
Then what's wrong? Communication. We've talked about communication.
What are we buying, Jared?
Well, that's why I got figured it out. So.
Cooperation.
Yeah. New Year's resolution. Yay, remember. Okay, so we're going to switch gears, though.
We're switching gears, right. We're going to talk about, this is kind of like, almost like a part 2 to the last one, because we're going to get into better intimacy and, sex in 2024. And, part of what goes into intimacy, a big thing that I know Brady has said that he gets asked about, etc., is foreplay. So let's talk about that. What is that exactly? What does that mean? What is foreplay?
And what are the questions you hear most often? Like, are people just saying, what is foreplay? Or like, Brady, when you say foreplay, what do you mean?
Yeah.
It was a band I almost joined when I was 18.
My gosh, really?
Joined a band called Foreplay?
I was not, but I almost joined a band called Foreplay.
It was in the 80s, of course.
It was. Of course it was.
Of course it was.
And it was. And but the reason why is because the guy was like, "Oh, we're going to be opening for a lot of bands." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Okay.
Yeah. Weirdo.
Woo! All right.
Where are they now?
I have no idea.
Never heard of them.
You never do it. Yeah, you never will.
But you do get that question a lot. You get that question.
I do get the question because when you get married, what goes away, right? We stop flirting, we stop kissing, we stop making out because I get couples saying, "Well, do you guys have any foreplay?" And they're like, always look at me. Well, what do you mean? Like sit in the car and make out? I was like, okay, well, you can. I mean, well, where are we going to do that? And they're like pushing back, like I'm like, before they would have done anything to get together and do this, but now that they're married, they're like, why would you want us to do that? It's just it's like almost like a pushback,
Now they're offended.
So rather than just being like, hey, it's late. Maybe we should just go have sex tonight. Is that, and it's like, oh, let's. I mean, I can understand that sometimes that's what has to be done because of life and our schedule, but it is nice to take time to rev the engine. Anything you can think of, any cliche lines you can.
I'm sure you can come up with.
Oh, I can think of a lot. It's all good.
I see the
right.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So because the older we get, it takes time for the body to respond. It's actually will be more enjoyable if you have a little bit of time that you can warm the engine up, so to speak, because if you just go right into it, that can cause sexual pain, that can cause ED issues. And, like I said, we're not 20 anymore. That's the big thing. And so, it's like, okay, well, what, do I have to kind of school you on what foreplay is? You got hugging, you got kissing, you got, touching in the erogenous zones, which is all the sensitive spots in the body. You can kiss all those places. And you can even get into oral sex. I mean, and some people, either don't mind that word or that topic, and other people really don't like that topic. And, it's in my profession or my genre of things, it's always based on the couple, whatever the couple decides is best for their relationship. If they like that for each other, if they it's just part of revving the engine, I guess.
Yeah. And you're talking about the physical of if it draws you closer, that was one of the key things. Like, all right, if a thing draws you closer, keep that, talk about that, include that as part of your repertoire of connecting and getting ready for that. Is that still one of the principles you guide by?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And of course, I'm thinking more from, obviously there's a connection side of all that, emotional side of all that. And a lot of people don't like, even if we just go to oral sex for a moment, a lot of people don't like that because it's a very trusting thing. You have to trust each other very well because, to be honest, very blunt, someone's face is in your crotch.
That is blunt. That is blunt.
Yeah, I'd say hygiene matters in that space.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of trust. You have to have a lot of trust, and a lot of people feel very uncomfortable with that, and you can understand why.
Sure.
So it's one of those things. Each couple has to, experiment, find out what is comfortable for them. What ways do they want to explore a little bit. But and sometimes a spouse, either the guy or girl, will do that for their partner. I mean, and maybe not completely, it's not their thing, but they know that they like it, and that goes for both sides. And I know stereotypically it would be more of the male, but I've heard it from both sides of things. So that's from a sex therapy standpoint. But well, Jared, go ahead.
Well, as Casper, get that question. We've gotten that question.
That's what I was going to say. Do you get that a lot?
Is oral sex? Is it a sin? Is it wrong? Is it right? We've dealt into that, and to be honest with you, the Bible it doesn't talk about specifically oral sex. There's no verse on it. Now, there are some verses that we can put around it to help us better understand it. So, is oral sex done outside of marriage a sin? Yeah, we would say that. Ephesians 5:3 says, "But among you there must not be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity." The biblical definition of immorality is any form of sexual contact context outside of marriage, 1 Corinthians 7:2. And then in the Bible, sex is to be reserved for marriage, it says in Hebrews 13:4. So yes, oral sex outside of marriage is what I've always told couples. Yes, that's wrong. When I'm encouraging couples who are engaged, and I meet with a lot of engaged
I'm
couples,
sure you do.
one of the things we'll talk about is, are you willing to abstain from sex prior to marriage? And then we'll have them go through premarital counseling. But we want to encourage them to do that. That question will often come up, and I'll say, yes, any kind of form of sexual immorality outside of marriage is considered a sin. Now, within marriage, it's a little bit different. Obviously, as mentioned, the Bible doesn't specifically mention it, but it does say that that sexual activity involving another person is sinful. Well, we've talked about that. We know that that's wrong. So obviously, adultery is wrong. But within the marriage, as you guys were talking about as professionals, if it's drawing us closer together, it's not necessarily wrong. Sex is to be God honoring. Our bodies are meant to glorify God. It says in 1 Corinthians, therefore honor God with your bodies. Sex is to be also exclusive between a husband and wife only. Again, oral sex being between the husband and wife. It's to be loving and other oriented. The Bible says the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife. Likewise, the wife to her husband. Marital sex happens regularly. Don't deprive each other of your bodies. I've always told couples they come together again so that Satan won't tempt us. 1 Corinthians 7:5. And then finally, as it comes to specific oral sex, marital sex unifies. So sexual intimacy unites a husband and wife, 1 Corinthians 7:5, and solidifies the one flesh of marriage, not just physically, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, every other way. So Brady, as you were talking about, there's a trust issue there. When that's happening with oral sex happening, there is a huge trust happening, and that's really unifying couples. So I would always encourage couples from a biblical perspective about those aspects when it comes to oral sex.
Yeah, well, and another thing to kind of remember with this, because a lot of people have their certain ideas they attach oral sex to just pornography, or something like that. So it has a connotation to it that where it's kind of dirty. But as I've been worked with couples over the years, you realize that somebody who's struggling with a time in their life when they're having sexual pain and they're going to the gynecologist trying to figure out what's wrong or something like that, and they can't have vaginal sex, what do? You just stop. So there's things that where intimacy, as life hits us, we have to not neglect our intimacy, but continue to grow. And that might mean other things, so, it's something to kind of keep an open mind about, especially if there's issues. And some people have pelvic floor issues. Some people have hip problems. Some people, you have all these things and you're like, hey, we have to, what are we going to do? Just not do this anymore? And what you're saying, Jared, is the Bible says, no, you kind of have to figure it out.
Kind of creative problem solving and being able to talk about it as you go. Because when you can have a conversation and say, hey, I need this, I need something different. You've got to work together as a couple, even throughout like a couple's, lifespan. What a love life looks like in the 20s is going to look very different when they're in their 60s and 70s. There's different stages of life. And so even checking in with kind of an inventory, like, hey, what do you need me to do differently? What do you need me to do more of? Do you have anything on a wish list that you want to try out? And so being able to have a safe space with your spouse where you can talk about this. The context of all of this discussion that we're having is in the context of a biblical marriage. And so that's why we're bringing in the scripture and the principles are. And so that's what we want to help grow throughout a lifetime of a couple. It's like, what's a healthy biblical marriage look like? And how can we help, the listeners, the viewers to enjoy just the moment, the season that they're in right now.
Sure.
We're normalizing this. So there's a spectrum of normal. It's not like one little sliver of like, this is normal. It's a really wide spectrum. Like Brady was talking about, for every couple, it's going to be different.
Absolutely.
But it's really nice to hear that out loud. Like there's a wide spectrum of normal.
It's okay. So, all right.
My wish list right now. Give me a second. I'm just going to send her over.
You're waiting until you get 60. You're waiting until you get 60. Things are going to change.
You'd ask. I have it listed on my phone. So
He's got a list on his phone. Deb's so excited.
I'm glad you're proactive. That's nice.
But seriously, but Brady, a question.
Yeah.
You get people saying, not this wish list, but they give me, because I've had this happen in counseling. Is the spouse, one of the spouse wants to do one thing, the other one's not comfortable with the other. What would you say to that?
Well, you have to explore, I think some of the uncomfortability. What is it that's uncomfortable? Is it something due to their past? That's hindering it? Is it just we're getting into next hygiene, but is it the smell? Is it a certain taste? And there are things, over the counter stuff that really help with this that we can get into in another episode that really do work. But yeah, I mean, I think, exploring your past, what's going on, and then, really finding out why is that so triggersome, and not saying that it has to, we're trying to change that. It's just like, well, at least we can put it out on the table and at least talk about it. So maybe the other spouse will understand it, be like, oh, I didn't know that, you never told me that, so
well, that does bring up what we wanted to talk about next, and how does hygiene fit into this? Because yes, with the oral sex topic, but just in general with intimacy, you're close to one another. You just it's not like arm's distance apart. So how does hygiene play into this?
I'm gonna make sure my breath smells good. Right? Because that would turn you off. That would turn you off, right?
Yes. That's why I have mouthwash available all the time.
I have mints in my pockets at all times. At all
times.
All times. Because I know, though, that's one thing that would turn you off, right?
Yeah.
We were at a game the other day. We were at a basketball game the other day. Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened.
So we're at a basketball game. And the guy behind me sounded very nice, but I could smell his breath like waft over me. And it was like, I haven't brushed your teeth for a month. I was just shocked. Like, your family still talks to you. Like, there's that just natural response when there is an unpleasant smell that you go, I am not interested in being nearby.
Right.
I'll make sure my breath. So that
it wasn't Jared. It wasn't Jared.
Yeah,
behind me.
I was sitting behind her at a game.
But the sensory piece here, when you think about like what those five senses are, the smell is one of the first ones that you pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Sure. Breath and body odor, all the different places that make smells.
So that's one thing that you'd want to talk about with your spouse.
Yeah.
What you're saying. Okay. Well, the other
that could be. Well, I think.
I know what the senses are. I guess I never really thought about them in the context of sex, because sometimes guys, some people are like more visually stimulated. Some people are more like touch. Seeing. Right. So, but what you're saying is you need to explore all of them.
Well, let me just real quick on the height. Go back briefly. Especially you have to be aware of things. It's like, okay, not pointing out, does your spouse smoke, or does that your spouse chew, or do they eat a lot of garlic? You know, I mean, you have to,
or onions. I mean,
you have to, you know, it's like, hey, you know, I can't go in for the 30-second kiss if I just, you know, spit out a chew. I mean, you know, it's just, you know, you have to be mindful of these things and, you know, take your spouse into consideration, and, you know, so, and that's where the smells come in with every parts of the body. It's just like, yeah, I'm go work out at the gym, and unless you're into that type of thing of a sweat filled body, I mean, it could be very much of a turnoff and be like, you know, you need to go shower now.
Correct.
You know, it's like
in Christmas
Margot,
vacation,
right?
like Margot.
Remember how that's how you met me, though? We talked about this. I was in the gym and I was all sweaty.
That's not how
I was
met.
wearing a cutoff mesh shirt. You were like, wow, look at that. Well, kind of, sort of.
You have a very skewed memory.
Right. I was all sweaty. And you're like, wow, there's people taking pictures and stuff. You remember this? And then you came in. You're like, hey.
I don't remember because it didn't happen.
You were like
way.
an intern, and I was like, oh, hey.
I feel like you like quoted the plot of like a Hallmark movie or something.
Wait.
Again, I might have
She was an intern.
Right.
She was 15. What's going on there?
I'm sorry. I might have. There are certain things that do turn you off. I get it. So
yeah, what turns your spouse on and off, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So
even is it the same as when you first got married? Like, has it changed over the years? Because just like your love life isn't static, the things that like turn you on are probably not static either. That probably has some space to change.
So do the five senses play into this as well? Is this what, you know, we kind of mentioned a couple of them? How do those play in?
Well, you had mentioned like an inventory.
Yeah. Well, like checking in to say like, okay, when you think about like, if you keep going with the five senses, like what you hear, ranging from body, voice, music, like what's the setting? What's the ideal setup for like setting the sound environment? Even feedback in your
playlist
voice. Yeah. Do you have? There's a reason there are so many like romance songs. Why they all have saxophone, I don't know. But there's.
Do you want me to play the saxophone? Do you want me to learn how to play?
We get like some careless whisper going on.
New Year's resolution. If I was all sweaty playing the saxophone, would that turn you on?
Without brushing your teeth, yes.
This is a good one not to do.
Yeah. And having garlic scented chew.
Yeah.
All right. I won't play the saxophone. That's fine.
Okay.
The sounds.
And Brady, add in other ones too, because I'm sure I'm not remembering all of them. But what's that sound environment like? And even during, like as you're kissing or warming up, like are you giving like nonverbal feedback in the form of like sounds and stuff, or is it just dead silent? What do you prefer? What works best for your marriage? And then touch. What do you feel? Like
and I think one of the hardest things
or not.
Yeah. I think one of the when it comes to maybe even like sight, you know, because men are typically more visual. We may try to accommodate that a little bit, but we seem to take that for granted, you know, of like, you know, we should take care of ourselves a little bit more, you know. If your spouse is all dressed up and you go to dinner and you're wearing a hoodie and basketball shorts and flip-flops, I mean, it's probably not visually going to be like, oh, I want to have sex with you as soon as we get home. I mean, so there should be, you know, courtesy there, you know, visually for both, you know, and vice versa. I've heard the opposite too. You know, it's like, well, they come home from work, they're dressed in a nice polo and everything, and their wife's, you know, I mean, has kids, but she's usually in sweats and, you know, hasn't done anything, you know, and that can be a turnoff too, you know. So we have to, you know, the visuals, and the visual too can be lighting. It can be, you know, some people lights on, lights off, slowly dimmed, a little warmer, a little cooler, right? Candles. You
I
got
like
the whole
fluorescent floodlighting.
That's right.
Wow,
The institutional floodlights.
The most fluorescent because that's very flattering for everybody.
Mm.
Right. Yeah.
Who are you? Oh my gosh.
We wanted to talk about this, so
You're right.
Usually.
So
okay,
yeah,
so visual is a big deal. It is.
Yeah, visual, and I mean, it just all depends how
I guess all of them could really be a big deal, just kind of depending on the person, right?
But
yeah,
you would go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, to have that conversation of like, even just if you list the 5 senses out, or if you're talking and just like, hey, what's your likes, what's your dislikes here? Visually, this is what I like. Visually, this is what I dislike.
Mm-hmm.
The smell. You know what? That could be anything. It could be a candle. It could be showered, perfume, cologne.
Mouthwash.
anything there. So yeah. I mean, you just go right down the list there, and discuss your likes and dislikes.
Yeah, and I liked how
practical.
You were talking about, not to go back to the foreplay thing, but this is all part of foreplay. What'd you say?
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned something when we were talking just offline about about 15 minutes allows. I don't think you mentioned it here at the podcast.
No, he
about
hasn't yet.
15 minutes helps relax the body.
Well, I think even when somebody has a sexual pain or ED issues, they recommend that you spend 15 to 20 minutes engaged in foreplay, so that it allows your body to catch up and to relax and let the blood go where it's supposed to go, all the other fluids go wherever they're supposed to go, and just kind of, it gets ready. Like I said, we're not 20 again where it's always ready, so we have to allow time, and sometimes we need a little extra help there too, through products of lubrication or whatever it may be. So I mean, we just have to sometimes go slow when we're really wanting to make a time a little bit more intimate and special.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it is.
Like there's a purpose
Absolutely.
behind it. And understanding the why really helps so much more with the ability to like follow all the way through and say, like, I will take my time with this because I know the benefits of it. And the benefits of what could be too.
Yeah, and I think even talking about, even what you're talking about, having couples discuss this, the things that they're turning on, can be part of the warming up foreplay process. Like, let's talk, let's communicate through this process that helps people relax, as opposed to saying, okay, it's time to have sex, let's just jump right into it. Like, having this communication also can be a turn on.
Well, there's also a thing called pairing too. I had this one couple, it was a while ago, so I don't think they would be listening, at least not, hopefully. Maybe they are, I don't know.
It's us.
But yeah, but their thing was they would use coconut oil. So coconut oil is, obviously, there's a lot of benefits to all that stuff, but that smell of coconut oil would just automatically, pair with, hey, we're getting in the mood. The body reacts to it.
Hey.
So it's kind of like, okay, so it worked for them.
Yeah, it becomes like an automatic stimulant.
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
So pairing things works very well with creating a mood. It's like, oh, that candle's lit, or hey, that song's playing. It helps, signal the brain. It's like, oh, we're doing this, and I'm going to get ready maybe a little bit quicker. Like, you're not taking me by surprise, like grabbing me, in the hallway and say, oh, let's go have sex. It's just like, well, okay, well, give me a minute. I have to go brush my teeth, go to the bathroom.
That's why
all the practical things.
so yeah.
Interesting. Pairing. I've not heard that term, but pairing.
No, pairing. Yeah.
It was important to talk to your spouse about what things turn you on.
Yes. The
and
communication
redirect for what you would like less of, and encourage what you would like more of.
Yeah.
But that takes vulnerability too. And like as a spouse, you have to not be offended if your spouse is saying, oh, I want more of this, or I don't like this. It's not something personal. Like you have to have that open conversation and that trust factor, and maybe even ahead of time be like, hey, is it okay if I direct you in this
interesting
in this way? Because you don't want it to be taken as especially if it's in more of the realm of that doesn't feel
in
good.
The moment.
Right. Like in the moment, like as a rejection. So maybe like communicating that up front, maybe when you're discussing the 5 senses, or when you're discussing, what your goals are. And, that's very much even like within the life coach realm, like that's, what are your goals? Where you're, going with this, and are you open to this communication? So having that ahead of time, I think, can be important as well.
I like what you said, Jen. It's like gaining permission from your spouse to have that conversation.
Because no one's trying to make them upset. So just
you're trying to give them an easy win.
Right. Exactly.
Here's the recipe.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you're not doing it well. It just means that a little pinch of this or a pinch of that is going to make it better.
But breath mints, if my breath smells like coffee, and like that's wrong. You would tell me. I already know this. So,
okay.
It's not new information.
That's why I have
not nothing new.
Always on hand. But it's a good reminder to have that discussion ahead of time with your spouse, asking permission to say, hey, let's talk about these things.
So that in the moment there's not issues. That could be avoided. Yeah. So any final thoughts, guys, that we want to leave with the audience about heading into 24 with better foreplay?
If you see the aughts at a basketball game, do not sit behind them.
Right. If you do, you better wear.
I know you brush your teeth.
Yeah, you see us there. You brush those teeth, because it doesn't help me at all. Because she's gonna talk about it later.
Right.
And then it's going to be a bit, I'm going to make sure my breath is extra smelling good. So please, I think, the resolution I think the resolution I'd give couples is to communicate here, not necessarily say, hey, we're going to have sex more often. That would be the ultimate goal, maybe, but we got to communicate. Let's start simple.
Yeah, let's do that. So, well, fantastic. Agreed. Well, we are going to have another couple weeks. We're going to have another new episode out. We will put out the topic. So stay tuned. If you've missed some previous episodes, feel free to go check us out. We're on YouTube, and we do stream this live on YouTube as well as Facebook. So, but YouTube is a great way to see all of them in one spot. So make sure you check out the links on social media, all of the things, like, follow, subscribe, all of those fun places. So you can always check us out too on thecouplescode.org. If you have questions you'd like us to answer.
Questions.
We'd love to do an episode of questions one day. So email those in to couplescodeteam@gmail.com. And of course, you can follow us on social media. Instagram is The Couples Code Official, or just The Couples Code in most other locations. So make sure you click follow, subscribe. Thanks for that, guys. Thanks for all of your engagement so far. And we're looking forward to a great 2024 with all of you. So we'll see you guys soon. With breath mints.
With breath mint, yeah.
With breath mints. So maybe that's our parting line. Don't forget to get some breath mints.
Don't get some breath mints. That's the title of this.
Sponsored by
Altoids. Very good. We should get sponsors. We should.
And I know endorsement to you.
Endorsement. All right. We'll remember that next time. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jen, for signing us off.
Thanks, you guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.